Starting on first.
We'll do this.
Okay.
Do you want me to take it off presenter mode? Okay.
Okay. If you need me, you can find me and message me in Hoopa.
Okay.
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 Okay. Gina, I'm all over. I'm all over the Ask Organizers Anything. I've been answering a ton of questions.
All right. We'll see how we go.
Hi. I have to go. How are we gonna put the slides?
Okay, you can move it with this. Move it this one. If I press it in. It's just easier, you can do that. Let people know that we are zooming on the laptop and we can't move around. So we have to be in the virtual attendee.
But we can't see how we look, so we just have to guess. Wing it.
Wait. Just see it.
Okay, can we all kind of get settled?
It's a time of the day.
Okay, let's close those back doors and get quiet. Good afternoon. I want to welcome you all to the Zonta Says Now to Gender Equality and Climate Action workshop. I'm delighted to have you all here today. If we could maybe close the doors when we're ready, we can get started. We are presenting live on this computer, so I'm going to be standing right here in order for all the folks who are back home to see us. So, Zonta Says Now to Gender Equality and Climate Action. This afternoon's workshop is being presented by myself. I'm Bobby Cardillo from the Zonta Club of Fairfax County in the US. And Carol Theobald, who is the founder of Zonta Says Now in the Zonta Club of Perth, Western Australia, District 23. We're also joined by Erica Lavia, Governor of District 25 from the Zonta Club of Bombay 1. Joining me from the US are members of the Zonta US Caucus Climate Change Subcommittee, and that includes Angela Brockman from the Louisville Club in Kentucky, District 5, Jane Austin from the Zonta Club of Minneapolis, District 7, and Julie Trone from the Zonta Club of Fort Collins, Colorado in the US, District 12. We were very excited when the statement on climate change came out from Zonta International. Excuse me. It explains why climate change is an issue of gender equality and how it threatens women's human rights, especially in regards to things like access to food and water and living quarters and safety and health. And so Zonta calls for action on this now. And that's why we have adopted the Zonta Says Now logo. How are we going to do this? Let's look at what we've come up with and what started in District 23, what Carol came up with. We're going to look at a steam train, a climate simulator, a competition, and 2 think tanks. And then you're going to take your first steps. So I'm going to introduce to you now the founder of Zonta Says Now, Carol Theobald from District 23, Zonta Club of Perth.
Thank you. This is really interesting because we are doing this virtually with our virtual people, and I haven't a clue if they can see me, so I'm sort of crouching. And normally I walk all over the place, so I'm feeling quite tied here. So I hope that you will bear with me while we pivot to the technology that we do have available and try and make the experience as best as it can be for those of you here as well as those people online. Okay, here we go. You're probably wondering why we are starting with a steam train. Well, steam trains were invented around the time of the Industrial Revolution, when we started to put carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So what we have is increased greenhouse gas emissions are leading to global warming and extreme weather events. And this is triggering social disruption that's magnifying existing inequalities, including gender inequality. Zonta says now tries to stop the train by working at both ends, trying to reduce emissions and close the gender gap. So let me explain. We're concerned with the science. For 800,000 years, carbon dioxide levels stayed below 300 parts per million. But look what's happened in the last 100 years since that train was built. It has just gone vertical. We are putting so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It is causing a blanket that is warming the earth. And since that steam train was built, we have increased global warming by 1.2 degrees already. This is the average of temperatures. You can see the average from the whole time between 1850 and 2020. We were always below the average. And in the last 20 years, we are warming up. Many of you would have noticed this. Anyway, so when we talk about the Paris Climate Agreement, they say we want to keep global temperatures below 2 degrees or preferably below 1.5 degrees. And you think, half a degree? What difference does half a degree make? It makes a big difference. When you look at extreme heat, at 1.5 degrees, 14% of the population is impacted. At 2 degrees, over a third of the population is impacted. When we look at coral reefs, at 1.5 degrees, our children and grandchildren have a chance of even seeing one. At 2 degrees, forget it, they've gone. When we look at species loss of plants and vertebrates, we lose double the number of species with just half a degree of difference. This is bad. So when it comes to global warming, we've already crossed 9 tipping points that will lead to catastrophic climate change. Our ice sheets are melting, and we're concerned with the speed of the change. We're seeing the rising sea levels. We're seeing the melting glaciers. We're seeing the melting ice sheets. We're all witnessing more intense weather events, intense heat, droughts, bushfires, storms, the once in a generation, once in a lifetime storms that seem to happen every year, and the biodiversity that's been destroyed. Millions and millions of animals and plants lost. This triggers social disruption. What do we mean by this? The headlines say it all. The Marshall Islands could be wiped out by climate change. Imagine going to bed at night not knowing if your house is going to be there in the morning. This is what the young people in the Marshall Islands, that's their nightmare. You've got Madagascar on the brink of the first climate-induced famine. The UN say the climate crisis is destroying livelihoods, driving displacement, and fueling conflict, putting millions of lives at risk. And this is the one that disturbed me. Climate crisis could displace 1.2 billion people by 2050. 1.2 billion people moving who have lost their homes. Anyway, more disruptions on the way. We have increased, we're looking here at high and extreme water stress, and we can see that another 1.9 billion people are going to be exposed to water stress by 2040. That's an additional 1.9. I'm concerned with this because this is my area, the area of Asia Pacific. Eric's already concerned because in South Asia, they're already experiencing the water stress. So let's look at the existing inequalities. As Zontians, we know the facts. 2/3 of the world's illiterate and chronically hungry are women. 130 million girls are not in school today. 1 in 5 girls are married under 18, whether they want to be or not. 1 in 3 women have experienced violence, and yet women in many countries around the world only have 3/4 of the legal rights of men. Many women cannot open a bank account, cannot sign a contract, cannot own a business or own land. And when you look at it, women make up half the planet, yet only 25% of parliamentarians globally are women. So our voices are not heard around decision-making tables. But when it comes to climate change, we take it to a next level. More women are more likely to be injured or killed during a climate event. Basically, they are often do not know how to swim or climb a tree, or their clothing stops them from running. And they also, in many cultures, women are not allowed to leave the house without a man. Pregnancy and child-caring responsibilities. How can you run when you're heavily pregnant with children in tow and elderly people that you're looking after? When it comes to when you are displaced in the refugee camps, displacement camps, women are so vulnerable. Sexual assault, physical abuse, human trafficking. You've got no papers, they've all gone, you don't know where anyone is. You are just so vulnerable. And imagine if you are pregnant or a lactating mother, or you have young children. Where does the next meal come from? It'd be horrible. And when you look at the mortality, this is just horrendous. You see, in the cyclone in Bangladesh in 1991, 90% of those killed were women. You look over here at the flood in the Solomon Islands in 2014, 96% of those killed were women and young children. And then you look at the tsunamis in Indonesia, in India and Tonga Samoa, 70% or more of those killed were women. Okay, so we have a problem. UN Women say, if we can actually achieve all the sustainable development goals, all 17 of them in the circle with the colors on, we will achieve gender equality. But we have a problem, another one. The pandemic has put gender equality back 35 years, according to the World Economic Forum. 2 years gone back 35 years. Horrific. The UN panel on climate change says, right, to keep temperatures below 1.5, we've got to halve greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, halve them again by 2040, and reach net zero before 2050. Okay, how many of you think it is possible to keep temperatures below 1.5? Come on, there must be at least one of you. We've got some over here, that's good. Yes, 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 yes. Good, I'm pleased to see it, that's great. And I can assure you that yes, it is possible because we have so many opportunities. Now we're in the good bit, okay? No more gloom and doom, well, very little. So we have renewable energy is a game changer. Did you know that 2.6 billion people currently cook on fuel or kerosene stoves? And 3.8 million people a year die from the pollution of that inside their homes, okay? And can you imagine having a renewable energy source where you're cooking from wind and solar power in your own home on an electric stove? Imagine the pollution not being in the house. You can breathe, the health of your family is improved. And then you look at the new technologies, electric vehicles. If we all had electric vehicles, imagine 8 million people about that die each year from the pollution caused by internal combustion engines. But if we had electric vehicles, not only would we be able to breathe, we could have a conversation going down the street because they're much quieter. So we would be able to hear what we were doing. Be very more comfortable atmosphere. But also, to stop the cities warming up, we need to make urban environments that are green, plant more trees. And imagine living in a city where you had more trees and plants and flowers that will attract the bees and the insects and the animals. You're getting more biodiversity in the cities. And in the farming communities, we have more sustainable farming practices, so less land degradation. So we've got great opportunities. So I want to show you the climate simulator. Now, this is where I hope I can get the technology to work, okay? So, well, let's see what happens. I want to show that. This is where I hope it works. No. Let me just go with that one. This one. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. You're all excited. I am getting excited. Let me see if we can come on down here. You. Let's see. See if we can make it work. Go on, full screen. Hooray! Good. Okay, now, what we are going to do here is we are going to achieve the Paris Climate Agreement in 15 minutes. Are you up for it? Yes. Yay! Right. We're going to use this simulator to do it. In the top here, we have 3 areas. The first one has got a graph which shows the primary sources of energy. We have coal in brown, we have oil in red, we have gas in blue, renewable energies, bioenergy, and a very thin layer of nuclear energy. The middle graph here shows you how carbon emissions are going up. And the last one here is the number. This is what we are on track for at the moment with all the various commitments made by different governments, okay? So by 2100, we are currently on track for 3.6 degrees centigrade, or Celsius, by 2100. So behind this simulator, it's done by Massachusetts Institute of Technology. There are 30,000 algorithms. It's free. You can play with it at home. You can adjust any of the assumptions in the back of it. And so there's a lot of technology behind it and a lot of manuals that you can read. But we only have 10 minutes now, so let's get going. Talk to the person next to you. And I want you to say, what is the one thing that can make the biggest difference to reduce global warming? Okay, you have a few seconds. Off you go. You can do this at home too. I forgot to mention here that we have all these things we can play with. Coal, oil, gas, energy efficiency, all of these things. Okay, right. Put your hand up if you have an idea of the thing that will make the biggest difference to climate. Yes, lady in the pink.
Clean, safe, nuclear.
Clean, safe, nuclear energy. Okay. We'll do this one first. When we put this in, I'm going, how many of you think that this will reduce this number here by 1 degree? How many of you think it might reduce it by 2 degrees? So we have 1.6 at the end here. Okay. Any guesses? Okay. Do you want to see? You sure you want to see? Okay. So we are now going to ramp up nuclear energy. Okay, we've gone down 0.1 degree. Next, what's the next idea we have? Lady at the very back of the room.
Reduce CO2.
Well, that's great, but by which measure? Reduce the coal and keep the coal in the ground? Do one at a time. Okay. All right. We're going to stop coal. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Ready? Okay. Let's go. Okay, we're now down to 3.3. Next. Yes, Karen. You want to use renewables. Anybody else want to use renewables? Yes, okay, let's do it. We'll ramp up renewables. Renewables have now come down to 3.2. Next, lady here. Decrease oil. Oil is now gone. We're down to 3.1. Lady over here.
Energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency for cars and buildings. Okay, we'll hit them both. Okay. All right. So we're having, oh, I'll come back up here. With everything that we do in here, you can drill down behind the scenes and it gives you more information. You will find this out when you play with this at home. Okay. So, we've got more efficient energy for transport, which means cycling and walking and using public transport, and more insulation, double glazing in the houses. Now, there's a lady over here I missed before, yes?
Increase the carbon price.
Increase the carbon price. Okay. We'll put it all the way up, shall we? Yeah, let's go. Okay, we've gone down a little bit there, but don't forget the impact of carbon price was not as big as it could have been because we've already stopped coal and already stopped oil. There's a lady here. Population growth. We'll get everybody to cross their legs, okay? Sorry, didn't make that much difference. Okay, lady at the very back in red. Offshore. So you're talking about, okay, bioenergy, stopping bioenergy, that's the burning wood. Or you're talking about, are you talking about offshore natural gas? This is net zero carbon. Okay, this net zero carbon is new technologies that haven't been fully tested yet. So it could be things like nuclear fusion. Okay, we know it's there, but it's not out there yet, but we'll give it a go. We've conquered nuclear fusion. Okay. Well, that was good. Next. The lady at the very, very back. Plant more trees. Okay. We are going to do afforestation first. 2.1, we're getting closer. There was someone down here, yes? The gases, that's the methane and other gases. This is, you can feed, research recently has shown that if you feed cows a certain type of seaweed, it can reduce the amount of methane that they burp up, okay? And also another source of methane is when you get for natural gas plants, you often get the flaring of the methane from those. So with this, we are stopping that, both of them. All the cows have been fed seaweed and we've stopped all the oil, the methane from the natural gas. Okay, we're getting closer, down below 2. We still haven't saved the coral reefs, but we're getting closer. Lady in pink. Electrification. Now we're going to electrify all the cars, all the transport. They can talk as we go down the street. And we're going to electrify our buildings. So we no longer have gas stoves in our houses. Everything's electric in the house. Wow. Okay, we're getting closer. We're 1.7, 1.7. Next, over here, lady. Okay, we're going to stop cutting down trees. Okay. 1.6, getting close, getting close. Yes, lady in the front. Technological. Okay, I'm going to save that till the end. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of things. We've still got some natural gas. Bioenergy is burning wood. Something that grows that you burn, basically. We'll get that down too. Yep, that's gone. Here we go. Okay, it's made a little difference, but not enough to make a difference on the big number. We've still got natural, yes, lady in the white? Economic growth. Right, we're going to make do with less, okay? Okay, next. Next. We've still got some natural gas there. Should we get rid of that to make it neat? Okay, all right.
The way you say it, it sounds like you should.
Why not? So now we're at 1.6. Now the lady over here was talking about new technologies. What's it? There was somebody over here. It was over here. New technologies. Now the new technologies include where you can suck the carbon dioxide out of the air and make it into bricks, things like that. Not been scaled up, but has been tested as showing that it is possible. So if we do that, we've saved our coral reefs. Okay. Yes.
Mitigation, adaptation,
Yeah.
solar energy, wind energy.
Yeah. We have those in our renewables. We have the solar. This deals with mitigation, not so much the adaptation.
Innovative technology.
Yep.
And technology transfer, adaptation.
Yep.
This will make a big difference.
So much, and that's all in here. But what I want to emphasize is that last thing with the technological change of sucking the carbon out of the air is the cherry on the cake. It is not the cake. Okay, so some people talk about that will be the answer to all of our problems. It will not. It'll just help get us over the line to get to below 1.5. But we need to do everything. I'm now going to try and go back to the presentation. Oh dear, don't like that.
Karen, one of your participants raised their hand.
Would you like to answer their question while I panic with this?
It's online.
Oh, it's online. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, you can't see that.
I can't see that, which is probably just as well.
Right there in the chat.
Okay. Would you please send the link of the website? Oh, yes, we will send you the links for the websites. On the zontasaysnow.org.au webpage, we have a link to a handout which everybody in the room has got under publications. Okay, there we go. Now, that one out. Good, going there. Just come over here. Come on. Come back up here. So. Come on. So what surprised you? How are you feeling, first of all? How are you feeling? Are you feeling up, down, indifferent, tired? What are you? Where are you at? Discouraged? Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
We are discussing our grid. We're not that happy about all the electricity due to the production of batteries and all that. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I'm being overrun by some great ideas that I don't believe in.
Okay.
I'm not that sure about nuclear energy either.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I
And you saw how little difference nuclear energy made. Okay, because nuclear energy was a tiny thing. We put it up first and it made hardly any difference because it's very expensive. It takes a long time to come online. And then we've got the problem of what to do with the waste. So we want to really boost up the things that are easy, the wind, the solar, and put every cent we can into those batteries to get them to work properly on a community level or in the house, wherever. So quite agree. But so I want to just sort of check with you today. The big take-home message is there is no one solution. There is no silver bullet. We have silver buckshot. We have to do many, many things. But we can do it. We can do it. But we must keep fossil fuels in the ground. And the benefits are not just, well, the benefits include cleaner air and better health for everyone on the planet. I'm now going to pass over to Eric Alavia, and he's going to tell you what they've been doing in District 25. Go for it, Eric.
Thank you, Carol. A very good afternoon to all of you present here. Thank you very much for coming in large numbers. First of all, on behalf of the entire District 25, I would like to thank the American caucus, the Australian members, Carol and her team, for involving District 25 into the climate change projects. Because it was always mentioned earlier, that's only the developing and the underdeveloped countries who are affected with climate change. But now it's reverse. Each and every country in the world has been affected with climate change. Forest fires, bush fires, floods, famine, so many problems we have seen. And so District 25, when I took over as the governor in the last biennium, I thought of having a presentation, a competition, wherein each and every club in District 25 would give me a project on climate change and its impact on women and the girl child. And each and every club gave a fantastic response. The best project was given a governor's citation and a trophy. I have abridged all the projects together and prepared a small presentation for us to awake before it's too late. So District 25, we have 4 countries, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. One of the most important things about these countries that all these countries have common issues and common problems with regard to climate change. What is climate change? Climate change is something that's not affecting the backward countries, but even the developed countries are being affected. You have rising sea level, air pollution, which is leading to global warming. Further, electronic energy, radiation adding to more warming, also water pollution. When I'm talking about water pollution, they are clogging the rivers. Most important over here is industrialization. A major factor is industrialization polluting air and water, especially in the underdeveloped countries. On the name of development, there are many factories and industries, but there are no water treatment plants where dirty water is treated and purified. And because of that, the ecosystem is now in danger. Deforestation, cutting of woods, trees. And because of that, in the name of development, mangroves are being destroyed. You know, mangroves are something very important, which prevents flooding. But when you have no mangroves, there are many cities in India, in Bangladesh, which have been submerged. Here I have a tree for you all. The climate change and the effects of climate change, pollution, flooding, global warming, forest fires. The earth, we are damaging slowly and slowly. It's dying a slow death. I have a very good example with you over here. The temperatures are rising on the Tibetan plateaus. Himalayas are young fold mountains. Even till today, every year, the Himalayas grow by an inch. And these rivers mentioned, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, the Yamuna, they are major rivers. They begin from the Himalayas. Livelihood of hundreds of people depend on these rivers. But when these rivers are polluted, the flora, the fauna are getting extinct. It becomes, the water becomes, you just can't use this water. And therefore, villages are going without water. There's a major water scarcity in around these villages where these rivers are there. Another thing, we have this in Bangladesh, removing trash from the lake and its surrounding. It becomes very easy to pollute lakes. But when you have to remove this trash, it is a very tedious process, and one must see to it that our lakes and fresh water bodies are kept intact. Wake up. That is very, very important. Wake up. Our actions are hurting people. You can see very well that the ozone layer is depleting. Long summers, hot summers, unseasonal rainfall, damage to the crops, the ecosystem is affected. The entire cycle is a continuous vicious cycle that is affecting climate change. Oh, sorry. Now, what can we Zontians do? Why did I take this up? Because I advocate he for she. And for me, women and the girl child need to be protected more, especially they are the ones who are carrying the progeny further. Impact of Zontians, use your voice. We as Zontians can advocate to counter climate change. We can begin from our own homes, our friends, our relatives, and it can go beyond. We will reduce our carbon footprint. The most important thing that we can begin with is to reduce carbon footprint. How will climate impact the world? It's very clear over here. Warmer water floodings will increase the exposure to disease. We won't have clear drinking water, pollution, hunger, famine, vector-borne disease. All these are going to affect each and every country in this world. More so, we are going to have heart-related illness, mental health impacts, asthma, malaria, respiratory issues, malnutrition, forced migration. All these are going to have severe impact and implications if we are not awake and we take care of our planet. My dear Zontians, the earth is what we have in common. We have just one Mother Earth, and it is our duty to take care and foster it. Now, another important thing, women and climate change. Any sort of problems affecting the world, it is the women who is first affected. Women face higher risk. The majority of the world's women are poor, especially in the underdeveloped countries. Women's unequal participation in decision-making. Women are sensitive to climate-driven food insecurity, and women have unequal access to resources. This is a major impact that women face for climate change. Over here, we have got some women can be game changers. You all can be game changers. You all are gender inequality, climate vulnerability, support initiatives, also inclusion of women and marginalized groups in decision-making process. Empowerment of women is very important, especially in fragile states. What further things can be done to reduce climate change? The 3 R's: reduce, recycle, and reuse. These are the various factors that we can take up as far as reducing climate change. My dear friends, there is no planet B. We just have one planet. The earth is changing and we need to change too. Think and act green. That's very, very important. Prevent pollution, reduce waste, Try composting of biodegradable garbage. Use water energy. Maintain diversity of life. Protect the world's natural, cultural, indigenous heritage. Support environmental education. Support local action and community participation. As I said, there is no planet B. Earth is changing. We need to change for the betterment. Step by step, we can make a difference. Together, the smallest changes make the largest impact. Act now. Little things that matter much. Together we can. We will make this earth a better place to live in. Thank you.
Now we're going to talk about the think tanks. We're going to have the think tank we have in Australia in District 23, and also how the think tanks came about in the USA. So I'll start with what we were doing in District 23. We realized in 2020 that we had this runaway train and we needed to create a gender equal, sustainable world by educating girls, advocating for women's rights, and inspiring more female leaders. That's what we decided in the think tank. We were very relieved when the Zonta International Statement on Climate Change came out, that also reflected education, advocacy, and leadership. So we were on the right track. So why do we educate girls? We educate girls because girls who are educated have opportunities. They can control their own bodies, they can control their own lives far better. Also, girls with 12 years of education can have up to 5 fewer children, meaning 1 billion fewer people on the planet this century. When we educate girls about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I had to think then, we're actually helping them to be part of the solution to climate problems. We're empowering them to take control of the response to climate change. We're helping them to be climate resilient, and we're helping them to be prepared and not scared. I was delighted to see the Engaging Girls on Climate Change in Madagascar project. It cuts to the heart of this issue. And in our district, the best ways that we can help to educate girls, especially in developing countries, is by supporting the Zonta Foundation for Women and the Endowment Fund. We really think those are so important. When it comes to advocating for women's rights, we want to raise awareness about climate change and gender equality. Did you know that most of the very small farmers of land, smallholding farmers, are women? Yet many of them are not allowed to own their land. They're not allowed to get a loan, so they cannot improve the land. So if they had equal access to finance and to land ownership, we could actually see 130 million more people fed on the planet. Food for thought, isn't it? Also, if we can help women get access to education, training, and technology, technology is a big one. We have a gender digital divide where men and boys, if the computer comes into a home, the boy gets to play with it and the girl doesn't. And it puts her behind from day one. When we have electrical energy in countries that have not had the energy before, it means that women can use mobile phones to access bank accounts. They can use mobile phones and charge them at home because they've now got power to access information about health and farming. It means that women can be empowered. And unless we can close this gender digital divide, they will not be able to know how to use the technology. We also need to make sure we have a gendered response to climate so that when there is a problem, we know that where the women and the children, what is going to happen to them? Where are they going to be? How are they going to be looked after? And you can help by being part of your local council, environmental advocacy group, consultation groups. That's what our members do. You can advocate on a national level through the United Nations, the Commission on the Status of Women, or through your clubs and through your districts. There's so much we can do. And when it comes to inspiring more female leaders, did you know that of the 6 top countries performing in the climate area, 4 of them are led by women? Hooray! And all of them have got more than 40% women in their parliaments. That's what makes the difference. So we have to support women on their leadership journey, whether it be in the Zonta club, whether it be at work, or whether it be in the community. We must encourage more women at all levels of government. And we do this through our Zonta leadership program. That helps us not only in Zonta, but in our work and in our communities. And supporting all the programs, the education programs. These women are our future leaders. Let's get behind them. We use 3 tools. We have our think tank, our website, and our framework for action. Our think tank are 2 monthly meetings that we have online, and it's across our district. That's 3 time zones. And we have speakers, experts who are not Zontians, as well as drawing on the expertise in Zonta. We have discovered that we have some amazing experience in our own clubs, in our own districts, and through the think tanks, we have been able to capture it. It is marvelous. I mean, I was talking to this lady today, Hanso, and she's just amazing, a miracle woman in the international climate scene. Talk to her afterwards. Through our think tanks, we have developed materials for our website, and our website is designed around our framework for action. This is the framework. It looks like what you have in front of you. So what we do is we gather the facts. So we want to know what it is that we are talking about. We lead by example. We take personal action. And then we tell our family and friends what we have done and what we have learned. We advocate with our clubs to raise awareness through issues, and then we collaborate with other clubs and other like-minded organizations to make our voice go further. So this is what we do. This is from our website. We have a few leaflets here. The leaflets are all designed to be read online, so we don't print out what we don't need to. And we've covered things like championing gender equality and climate action. We've also got the 5 R's guide for reusing, recycling, repairing, rethinking. We've got the sustainability principles for clubs and for individuals, and also how you can invest your money, what it means when we talk about investment risk and climate exchange traded funds. We have a 2 monthly newsletter that we put out, and also various postings that we do. And all of our think tank meetings are recorded, so those that can't join in at the time can do so later. We have our leading by example. Oh, there's so many things you can do. You can use the Zonta app, reduce your own emissions, say no to the plastic bag when you go for lunch and the takeaway. How many of you have got a stainless steel straw that you keep in your handbag? There we go. There's a few already taking action. Easy things. Some clubs in our district are making these mesh bags so that when we go shopping at the supermarket, we put things in the mesh bags, or we have these wax sheets that we use instead of plastic wrap. So there's lots of things we can do. We also have adding our voice. If you go to a meeting like this, talk about it with your family and friends. Read the newsletters, share what you learn. Easy. When it comes to raising awareness through advocacy, in my own club, we have a Women in Science event. And the last one, we invited 3 women who work to protect coral reefs. And we invited high school students to the event. Now all the girls want to be scientists. Funny that. We invite politicians to our meetings to explain where they stand on climate change and gender equality. We've just had an election in Australia, and that election was sorted on gender equality, integrity, and climate. There's never been an election like it in Australia, I can tell you. Melbourne Yarra Club has Women Taking Climate Action Leadership Award, and we've had some fantastic awardees, and we're now looking at rolling that out as a district award. So there's lots we can do. When we collaborate with 1 Million Women, which is making sustainability a lifestyle, and Plastic Free July. You can all take part in that one. In our think tanks, we're collaborating with different clubs. And in our think tanks, Florence joins us at a very, very early hour in the morning from Luxembourg. And we've had so many people that have joined us in the think tank. I was privileged to speak at the Women and Climate Change webinar last year in September. And following that, I met up with these guys and they all emailed me and said, oh, what are you doing? And next thing I know, I learn about the USA caucus, and we presented together with Eric at the NGO-CSW, the Non-Government Organization Commission on the Status of Women, number 66 event, which was the 50th anniversary of the NGO-CSW. And here we are today, collaborating in Hamburg. In fact, this morning was the first time we'd met each other. Isn't that sweet? So Zonta Says Now is bringing the Zonta world together to accelerate our mission. Through Zonta Says Now, there is just so much that we can do to keep the next generation smiling. And I'm going to now hand over to Bobby to tell us about the USA caucus and their think tank.
Thank you. My job is to just tell you a little bit about the Zonta USA caucus, because while Carol was getting all of this started in Australia, we were developing a mechanism for doing advocacy in the US together. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Just a moment. There we go. So I'm just going to tell you a brief overview of what the Zonta USA caucus is. We were founded by Zonta International in 2018 in order to represent the 7,000 US Zontians in advocacy actions on a national level and on a state level, to try to draw on the expertise of all of our Zontians in the country and try to impact legislation in the country. One of the ways we did this to influence legislation is by creating Fast Action Friday advocacy alerts, where a US member could get a notice every other Friday that you can take action today by reading about this issue. Let's say it's human trafficking, and there's a bill before our Congress on human trafficking. They could, by putting in their name and address, address their congressman directly by pressing a button, and a letter would go out on their behalf to try to influence the senator or congressman in supporting the legislation. So that's one of the ways that we managed to make legislative action happen through the caucus. We also engaged in awareness campaigns, and you're all aware of the Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women campaign that's been championed around the world. We also created our own child marriage billboard and digital sign campaign, where we made it easy for our clubs to orchestrate putting up a billboard around their community in order to make US citizens aware that child marriage was a problem in our country. So we started out by not even knowing that. And so we put up billboards really around the country in the last 2 years. Go to the next one. So how did we get involved with climate action? Well, first of all, we're involved with advocacy through 13 representatives appointed by the governors of the 13 districts that have clubs in the United States. Those representatives meet together and try to create advocacy actions that our clubs and our districts can perform together or separately. And we created subcommittees to do the work of finding out the things to support. One on equal rights amendment, one on child marriage, one on violence against women, one on health, and one on education, and one on work. But when Zonta International came out with its statement on climate change, we decided we had to get on board with this. And so we combined two of our subcommittees, education and work, and we created a climate change subcommittee. And then in September, I was just astonished and delighted to listen to Carol's presentation at the Zonta International Zonta International Advocacy Committee's webinar on climate change, where Carol spoke. And I heard about this phenomenal concept of think tanks, a way by which in the United States, we might be able to mine the expertise of 7,000 people who might have some knowledge about climate change we could all use. And also 7,000 of us could learn about climate change from experts. And so we created a think tank of our own. And we decided we would have our climate change, our newly formed climate change committee, orchestrate it and manage it. And so we've been delighted to have 2 think tank sessions since we came up with this idea in the fall. We've had one in March, and we've had one again in May, both times on the topic of water and how to get clean water and what the problems with water are in the United States. But the think tank committee and the climate change committee continue to work on this. And so I'm delighted now to introduce to you our chair of our climate change and gender equity subcommittee, Jane Austin from District 7.
Thank you, Bobby. As Bobby said, we were just established last September. So we haven't been around very long, and our subcommittee is just 5 or 6 people. So in order to extend our reach, to bring in more knowledge, more ideas and the like, we created the think tank. So our purpose of this think tank is to be a forum not only to increase awareness and understanding and engagement of our members, but most importantly, to help them get connected across the United States, share ideas, and to learn how and where they can take action at the individual level, at the local club level, or the district or regional level. So as evidenced by the presentation that Carol gave today, climate change is a huge, pretty intimidating topic, especially if you haven't been paying too much attention to it over time. So in order to make it more understandable, related, and get it down to a level of context that our members can get their heads around, we started with the report from the USA Women's Caucus at the UN and the 7 issues that they identified. And they had a lot of recommendations under each of those 7 topics. But recognizing we couldn't take on all of that at once, just too overwhelming, we chose to focus on 4 key topics. And starting first just with water and try to address that. So again, when we take on a new subject, especially something as big and for Zontans perhaps different, the first thing we need to do is inform ourselves, get us a collective understanding of what are the issues and what are the impacts. So I'm a scientist, and I'm very familiar with the challenges of taking science jargon, especially if you try to read the IPCC report on climate change. Even for me, it can be pretty challenging to dig through it. We need to pull together that information, synthesize it in ways that is understandable and relatable to our members. Work with knowledgeable individuals, pull in those experts, especially the women scientists that we can tap into and learn from. and have them give presentations, share the information that we develop through webinars and different presentations. And I think it's also really important, because it is such a huge issue to try to get your head around, scale down the information about climate change and effects to the area or subject of interest. How is climate change affecting your community, your state, your river system? And how, in turn, how is that affecting the environment and the communities and the women in those communities? So scale it down, and using all this information that you've pulled together, develop some really powerful social media materials that can be shared, and that campaign similarly to what we did with child marriage. So as Bobby said, we've had 2 think tanks so far. And the first one, we just sort of laid the foundation. We explained, to our members that participated in the Zoom, why do we need to be thinking about climate change? It's something totally new for a lot of Zontans. What are the issues associated with that? We explained some materials from the report on the USA Women's Caucus at the UN. And we also had a series of presentations from Zontans around the United States, about 5 or 10 minutes each, to give some ideas of how climate is affecting different parts of our nation and how it's affecting women and children differently. Our second presentation, we engaged the experts. Our first was by Dr. Valerie Cleland, who has done a lot of research on oceans and ecosystems and how the climate is affecting that. And in turn, how is that affecting the communities along there, and differentially how it's affecting women. Allison Mayer Gould, who works on the Colorado River system as a water specialist. The Colorado River system feeds water to a huge part of the southwestern United States, and it is now in a mega drought, which is affecting many cities as well as a lot of agriculture. But Allison gave us some really interesting food for thought. How do we think about fresh water? Where does it come from? How is it being used? And the concept of virtual water, when we move water from one area to a whole different area, either through bottled soda or crops or other products that we make in one place and we ship around the world. Where does our virtual water go? And finally, we introduced the framework for action that Carol had developed, to introduce it to our members and get them to be thinking about just what can they do. Of course, as we work to inform ourselves, also reach out, collaborate with other like-minded organizations and individuals, share their stories, best practices. What have they learned that works, that helps people understand the issue and motivates them? Listen to different perspectives, economic, ethnic, geographic, and in particular, go and listen to the indigenous people. They have the deepest history and connections with the earth. They have been experiencing long-term changes in nature over thousands of years. What are their issues? What are their ideas? What are their challenges? So listen to the indigenous and try to work with them respectfully. And of course, as we collaborate with like-minded organizations, it only helps to amplify our voices and all of our ideas to move this forward. And the main purpose of our think tank is not only to inform and engage our members, but to motivate them and really energize them to take action. And as part of the USA Caucus, our action is focused on advocacy. And that starts at all levels from your community. What is your community doing or not doing? Who are the decision makers there that you can talk to, from your local neighbors to other organizations in the community? What's happening at that level, at your state level? And we often talk about tracking national legislation or state legislation, but it's also really important to pay attention. Once legislation is passed, how are those agencies and organizations implementing policies and regulations? So that's the next step. We can't say, okay, we've got it done, we passed the legislation. How is that agency implementing it? And we have what's called the Federal Register in the United States. You have opportunity to communicate your interest, your comments on how they're proposing to roll it out. But also go talk to your agency individuals. If you have an opportunity, go talk to Secretary of Interior in the course, or others within those agencies. Share tools and lessons learned across all of our clubs, our like-minded organizations. And as Zontians, try to keep in mind that to be consistent in linking our advocacy and service activities. And finally, in part because I'm a scientist, it's really important that whenever you advocate, whether it's on climate or other issues, it's always based on sound, objective information. That it is scaled to the issue at hand. It's relatable at that scale, and that the actions that you are supporting or opposing, but the actions that you are supporting will actually improve the environment and gender equality, and be on the lookout for potentially unintended action impacts. And as always, as Zontians, we need to be nonpartisan and non-sectarian in everything we advocate for. So with that, I will pass it on to Julie and District 12 and some of the awesome work that they have taken on with climate.
Hi, everyone. I'm from District 12, 4 Western states in the United States. And before we get started, we've learned a lot. Some of it is not so happy news, but we have some hope, I believe, through all of our speakers. They've given us hope, right? So I ask you to take a breath. A lot of times we get caught up here with everybody. So just take a little deep breath so we can make decisions better, so we can think clearer. Okay, so last fall, we learned about Zonta Says Now in District 12. And in the meantime, our former governor asked if we wanted to form a committee on climate action and gender equality. I raised my hand, so did many other women, and we called our committee the Action for Environment and Gender Equality. Then I contacted Carol and said, Carol, we like that Zonta Says Now saying, can we use that? And she said, absolutely. Just put your district number next to it so we know who's doing what. So we did, and that's our logo that we have established. So we used the 5 pillars framework in our committee. We gathered the facts. We didn't really understand the connection. I don't know if everyone here right now still completely understands the connection between gender equality and climate action or climate change. So we gathered facts and resources. And then remember the 7 areas of recommendations from the U.S. Women's Caucus that Jane had up: health, food and agriculture, water, disasters, forced migration. Well, we use those to categorize the research that we did. And then we also set high standards. The internet is confusing, and sometimes you'll go to a site and you'll think this is the truth, but actually it's not. Maybe they want to sell you something, or maybe it's really not based in truth. So we set high standards for validity, reliability, and usability by our members in the district. So all of our resources are on that. We led by example. We use our voice, but we lead by example by giving presentations to clubs, districts, and area meetings. We've given presentation to districts all over the United States now. So here's a picture of our landing page. We developed a website. That's part of using your voice, social media. So we developed this website. This is the table of contents, let's say, and the bullets in red are the ones that have a lot of links. So I wanted to explain that to you. So if you felt like you could put a web page on your district website, this is the beginning. So we have climate action in your state and national. Eric has 4 countries in his district. If he wanted to do this, I'm not sure if he does already, he might. He would look at all the issues in each of the 4 countries, like we did in our 4 states. And each state has disaster management resources, water information about fresh water in their community, where to go for emergency preparedness. Those are the kind of resources we put on that bullet. So for instance, if any of you know about Yellowstone National Park, 2 weeks ago, it flooded. They closed it down, torrential rain, and then the heat melted the snowpack. So we had torrential flooding. And what happened was it took out a whole town, a small town. It destroyed part of the park, lots of structures, soil erosion. People were saying you could hear the boulders rolling down the river. People lost their homes and everything in them. They were evacuated quickly. That is climate related. So the necessity to support our communities with resources that people can go to instead of having to search for them is urgent. Then we have educational resources, and this is for all of you. We have created categories of climate action, empowering women, books to read, movies to watch, so that anyone in this room, anyone in Zonta, anyone in your community can go there and say, I'm interested in reducing plastic in my community. There are resources there for you that we have vetted already. And then lastly, we created a Facebook page for new and relevant information. A lot of you, raise your hands if you already have a Facebook page with your club or your district. Wonderful. That's very good. That's about 30%. Well, we did that just for this particular issue, because we wanted our states to know this is what's happening in your state. We have disaster management hotlines for the state of Montana, where Yellowstone was flooding, on our Facebook page. So that's how we worked that out. And that's what we do with our web page. So continuing with the framework, we added our voice. I've been talking about adding our voice. And let me tell you that the framework is interwoven. We collaborate, which is the last one, throughout the whole process. We're collaborating right now. We advocate all the time with our passions for Zonta Says No, child marriage, ending child marriage, not starting that. And then now the climate action and gender equality. So many things that we're standing up for and speaking out for, using our voice. We write articles for our district newsletter. If your district doesn't have a newsletter, maybe encourage your district to have a newsletter, and you can put what all the different committees are doing, including something like this. We're also working on a guest speaker series, just like the think tanks, but we want something to identify our district and our district issues. And we have taken from the Zonta USA Caucus Fast Action Fridays and created our own district action alerts for state legislation, because our Zontians want to get involved, and some can't get involved with creating events, being at events, but all of us can get involved with pursuing issues and legislation. Today is action day for all of us. So this is our time to take some action. Carol's going to talk. Are you going to come up and talk for a second? I can go ahead and start. Yeah, okay. So now it's time for us to get busy. Everybody ready? Take a breath. Let's get that blood flowing. All right, so first activity, super simple. Everyone can do it. Hopefully, if you can't do it, just watch. Fold your hands on your table, in your lap. Just fold your hands the way you normally fold your hands. Anyway, even those of you virtually, fold your hands. Now, notice how that feels. Pretty comfortable. That's your habit. Now take your hands apart and fold them a whole different way, something new and unusual.
With the other thumb on top.
Yeah, that's an easy one, or just whatever you like. And notice how that feels. Does it feel different? Anybody uncomfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Okay. Everyone in Zonta learning about this issue, gender equality with climate change, feels like it's different. It's uncomfortable, I don't know what it means. I don't know where to start. That's what you're feeling right now. And this is our opportunity to help every member in Zonta to learn and be educated on what this whole issue is, how it connects, and where do we go from there. So let's do that now with each other, and then you can do it at your club level. So first steps, that's the name of our next activity. Should I just keep it up here? Okay. All right, first steps. For about 30 seconds or so, I invite you all to just sit quietly. I'm not going to talk. And I want you to self-reflect on what first step you can take based on the framework you have in front of you. So just take a look and generate some ideas, or just think, listen to your thoughts. All thoughts are okay.
Move it forward for the virtual present people.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So for those of you virtually, you can see it on the screen. Okay, I know that wasn't much time, but we don't have a ton of time, so let's move forward. And I know those who are on our virtual platform may not have people in the room, but they can write down ideas. So our next step, talk to someone next to you or near you and share whatever came up. It's okay if you were not quite sure. You don't know. It's okay if you need more information. It's okay, whatever you are thinking, whether it's positive or negative, share with someone, allow yourself to be vulnerable and talk about it just for a minute. Okay. Okay, everyone. If you can hear me, we're all going to get back together. Thank you. Can I, yes, keep clapping. All right, everyone.
You have to carry on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. My goodness, that was awesome. The energy in this room elevated beyond the ceiling. It was wonderful. So if the front row, next time I do this, if you notice, if you could just start clapping when you hear me, so then everybody will know that it's time. All right, so I saw groups of twos, occasionally a three. I want you to add at least two more people, maybe three, because we collaborate. And if we share ideas, we become stronger in our beliefs, are stronger in our programming, stronger in our advocacy. And boy, is it great to share ideas. They don't all. So I invite you for the next couple. See what everyone is talking about, so you can get a greater sense of what's happening in the room. All right, go ahead. Ready, set, go. I'm only going to give you tell me when, like, yeah. All right, virtual people, thank you for listening. This may be a tough activity for you, but keep writing down what you can think of that could be perceptive you can bring to your class. Just tell me.
Hope the online people are having fun.
Yeah, I hope they
Right,
like
okay.
So just to keep writing down things.
Just keep writing down. Great.
This is gonna be a short, like, chit chat. Yeah, I'm just gonna do the questions and have time for feedback and do it. Figure out. Okay, I know that was quick. That was very quick, but I have to cut it off. Thank you, everyone, for the most awesome collaboration. Give yourself a hand. That was incredible. Okay. The first thing you just did is you just inspired more female leaders. Everyone here just inspired female leaders. That's incredible. As leaders, let me just say, one of the biggest activities you can do as leaders in your community is ask questions. Why was that decision made, and did it consider the benefit of women and girls? Ask your leaders those questions. How did you come up with that? Let me see your data. I'd love to hear more, because so often decisions are made because one person, maybe two, wants something to change and they don't consult a larger group. So raise your hand if you and your group were able to come up with an achievable first step. Anybody? Got a few here. Good. How about who in the room needs time to consider greater possibilities? Yeah, I'm sure everybody. Okay, hands down. What about who in the room still, and please be honest, who needs more information about the connection between gender equality and climate change? Everybody, yes, hands down. So that's 3 types of leadership. Those who get it and really want to start moving, let's do it right now. Those who need to look at all the possibilities and maybe even the bigger picture. And those who need more information. That's 3 styles of leadership. I guarantee you have all of those styles and more in your club so you can work together and come up with some solutions that are sustainable in your clubs. Creating advocacy plans that are including climate action and also maybe even improving what you're already doing, adding sustainability, that piece to it, like maybe not plastic cups anymore at an event. Little things mean a lot. So we only have about 3 minutes. I would like to open it up for some questions. If anybody has a question.
I have 2 questions from the beginning of your workshop. One of them is that you were showing a temperature thing and said that it used to be below the average, and I just can't understand how you constantly could be below average. Where does that average come from? And my second question, if I may, is that you were showing the other file over here with how women are more affected than men. There was this about the tsunami with the 90 and the other one.
Yeah.
But I was curious about the cow, because there it was, the ratio was almost 50-50. It was 45 versus 55.
Yeah.
So what went wrong in the cow? Why were the women less vulnerable, or what happened since the men got so affected?
I think it was just so quick. It's good.
But it was also an earthquake in Kashmir.
Exactly.
You don't see the same
I
numbers
don't know
there?
why. I don't know what the answers are.
Yeah.
All I know is that we just need to find out more.
But the others are also natural catastrophes.
Exactly. And I think a lot of those were the inability to swim, to climb trees, those sorts of issues. And also the cultural one of not being allowed to leave the home without a man.
Yeah.
That was one of the problems in Bangladesh
So
earlier.
interesting what was different
It
in
is.
how.
It is. We can learn from that, which is great. Yeah. And the good question. What was the first one? Oh, it's the average one. The average one.
Yeah, the average temperature that
Okay.
below average. I
Okay.
didn't quite get that one.
Okay, I'll show you that one. I'll just come back. I'll just have to go back like this. Sorry about this. I can't see it on my computer. But what we had was the average temperature from 1850 to 2020 was the baseline. And then what they did was they said the average temperature for each year compared to the average for the century, what it showed. Okay, so that's what it was trying to show. Do you realize how many slides we've done here? You're reliving it. Look at this. And so, yeah, exactly. My God, look at this. And they keep going, keep going. You remember, we don't have to do a review. You're getting it backwards like this. So what we had was, you were talking about was this slide here. Oh, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. Come on, there we go. I went too fast and I've overshot. There we go. But this is the graph that you were interested in. So the average temperature from 1850 here to 2020, that's the average of all of the years. And then they say, what was the average in 1850 itself? And that is that first vertical line. It was below the overall average of the whole century. And then you look at the average for 2020, it was that much higher than the average for that over the whole century. Does that make sense?
It makes sense now when I know what the average
Exactly.
was taken from. But then the interesting is maybe not so much about above average, but it's that in such a small time, we get all the way up here from down here.
Exactly. That's the scary part. The fact we've got all of this here. That's the amazing part. Now you get to relive it all going forwards again. Yeah.
Who were the people you gathered in those?
In the think tank in District 23, we put a newsletter out to everyone in the district and said, we want to do something. Are you interested? Let's have a conversation. That was it. And we just met on Zoom, and on Zoom, the people all gave their views, and together we came up with all the things we came up with. Okay, so we came from nothing. We knew not what we were doing. We're all learning. We're all, what's what we say? Learning by doing. That is what we're all doing. Oh, gone too far.
Very much a brainstorm.
Very much a brainstorm. The think tank that is what we were up to.
And why do you use the most cultures about it? Because I thought of related to having to do with politics. And maybe I'm not a native speaker in English, so why did you call it that?
Okay.
Can I?
Yes, please.
All right, and in the United States, we have Zonta USA Caucus. We have think tanks similar, inviting every club in the nation through our governors. They invite everyone.
You're going to come this way to the.
But the other part of it is a separate action, which is legislative action. I understand that not every country has that opportunity to take legislative action. But what you can do is ask questions with your community leaders and give them information like, we need this, we need that, we have people to do this or that. That's a separate action than the think tank. The think tank is an educational program. The legislative action is whatever you have, whatever you can advocate for in your community that has to do with rule making, law making, decision making, so women and girls are involved. Good. Quick note, if you talk about this, once you get to learn more and feel more comfortable, it helps increase membership when you're looking for new members, especially younger women who are now empty nesters. They are really excited about this, and I've seen it happen. Membership's increasing as a result of working in this kind of advocacy. I'm going to give it to Carol to close out. Thank you all.
Okay. So, thank you. So in 2 minutes, we've now set up a small Zonta Says Now team to see how we can roll this out internationally. And we have the people here that have presented today. We also have Pia at the back of the room from Stockholm, who's just arrived. I'm so excited because I've never met her face to face. And Karen down here from Germany as well. So together we have been working to figure out how we can take the next step. So what we want to do is we're calling on people across the world who have got an interest in this area, something that they can provide and contribute to take us to the next level, so we can form a working group, align what we're doing with what's happening in the other parts of Zonta, and then have something which aligns with the Zonta International Climate Statement on Climate Change and the CSW 66 recommendations, and we can put things on the Zonta International website. The CSW 66 recommendations cover a lot of ground, okay? There is plenty for us to play with here, okay? And so we're working to try and develop a communication strategy and a structure so as we can go forward clearly without confusion, okay? So we're working on that bit. So today we showed you the steam train, showing you that we need to work at both ends of the train to reduce emissions and close the gender gap. We showed the climate simulator. Yes, we can do it. We can get below 1.5. We showed through the competition that Eric did all the different issues that we can cover as women. And then we showed the work that's being done in District 23 think tank and the USA Caucus, its think tank, and District 12. And then finally, we have started you on your journeys with your discussion with each other and how you are adding your voice to each other already. On your leaflets, on the back of it, you will see all of our contact details, and you'll even got a starting thing here. We have the details of Plastic Free July. This is done in over 200 countries around the world, 300 million people. You too can take action today. So refuse that plastic bag. So thank you so much. And one last thing. Together we can and we will build a better world for women and girls. Thank you. Thank you to the whole team. Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching online. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course you did.